Welcome to the third of 3 podcast episodes on time and range. This episode is being supported by an independent educational grant from Abbott. Today we're going to focus on time in range and technology. I'm your host, Dr. Neil Skolnick, professor of family and community medicine at the Sidney Kimmel Medical College of Thomas Jefferson University. And joining us today is Dr. Kaan Akturk. Dr. Akturk is an assistant professor of medicine and pediatrics at the University of Colorado, Barbara Davis Center for Diabetes, and the communications director of the American Diabetes Association's Diabetes Technology Interest Group. He's also the founder and program director of Diabetes Dialogue, an annual hands-on diabetes technology workshop for nationwide endocrinology fellows. Welcome, Dr. Akturk.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. You know, in the first episode, we discussed some of the details about what CGM is, as well as how to interpret it and use the information from CGM. And our focus then was on time and range. In the second episode, we discussed the importance of time and range in pregnancy. Today, we're going to discuss some of the exciting advanced technology that utilizes CGM. Kaan, can you tell us about some of the different ways in which CGM is used?
Certainly. So the CGM can be used as a standalone CGM. And if somebody is using multiple daily injections, or somebody is using an insulin pump that is not compatible to be connected to the CGM, then this person can use CGM as a standalone CGM. Otherwise, CGM can be used as a part of an automated insulin delivery system, which means that you have a smart insulin pump and you also have a compatible CGM that connects wirelessly to this insulin pump. And then they are connecting together to control the blood glucose and to prevent hypoglycemia and to decrease the hyperglycemia. Also, we can use the CGM as a part of smart insulin pens. There are systems that integrated CGMs can be used together with some smart insulin pens with an app with a smart pen and in a smartphone. And there are so many other ways that we can use the CGM basically.
So I think most of us are familiar with the standalone CGM. We see some of them advertised on TV, and they're pretty straightforward and are making their way into general practice. Freestyle Libre, Dexcom. The connection with the smart pens, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Does it automatically say what amount of insulin should be injected, or do you have to program it and then it tells you? How does that work? I'm not sure most of our listeners are familiar with that.
Smart insulin pens, the first one to get an FDA approval was the InPen. So that one can connect to Medtronic Guardian CGM, also the Dexcom G6. So how this works is there is an insulin cartridges. So you basically fill in the same pen. This is very specific to a bolus insulin pen. So it doesn't work with the basal pens. So basically, if you are using Humalog, there is a Humalog smart pen. If you are using Novolog, there is a Novolog insulin smart pen. For different brands, for a different pen. If you change your brand, you have to change the pen. And then once a year, and then you have to change the pen also. And it's covered by most of the insurances. Then how is this pen is working is the pen component that I explained. There is an cartridges insulin that you fill it. And also it connects wirelessly to a smartphone app. Is then iOS or an Android an app. So in this app, you are actually mimicking how an insulin pump is working. So basically, you are putting your insulin carb ratio, you are putting your active insulin time, you are putting your correction factor, and then based on that, when you put your carb ratio and other things, your targets are there, and how much carb you are eating, the pen and connected to the app, it gives you a recommendation of, okay, probably you should be taking that much of an insulin. So there is also a decimal point that you can use, like let's say 4.2 units, you can get it. So you can, when you give it, you are actually giving 4.2 units in insulin instead of 4 or 5. So that's an advantage of you are using your pen in the decimal points too. It also tracks your active insulin time. So it tracks that how much this insulin is depleted by time. So you can just, when you are trying to repeat another dose, and at that point, the smart pen can see that, oh, there is a lot of insulin on board already. So why don't we do this up or down? So it can just monitor that. And anything that given there will be a record there. So it's a great feedback for your uh, provider or for yourself when you use these devices. And these devices also can monitor the temperature of the insulin and also can give some recommendations about, oh, you missed this dose or you were supposed to take that amount, and also some give some feedback, and it's connected with the CGM. It's a great tool. Also recently get an FDA approval tool is the um, another pen that connects with the Libre 2 is the Bigfoot. So Bigfoot system is also another pen sleeve actually that you are adding to your long-acting and short-acting insulins. And the short-acting insulin one also is connected to the Libre 2 app. So, and when you can also, when you use a Libre 2, it's an FGM, means that it's an intermittently scanned glucose monitor. It's not a continuous glucose monitor. So you have to read, you have to scan either with a reader or you have to scan either with your smartphone. And you can use this Bigfoot bolus pen as a reader, so you can just get the results on your BigPen app and on the BigPen monitor, and then Bigfoot monitor. So you can just use this as a conjunction of this smart pens. So basically, this summarizing, the smart pens are for the people that wants to get a lot of benefits of that integrated systems, but they don't want to use a pump.
Sounds pretty amazing, and thank you for going over things in a lot of detail because I think it's really on that cutting edge of what many of us want to learn about but don't already know about. So it sounds like it takes a very motivated patient. You have to put in a lot of information before you're able to use it. And then the part that I wasn't sure I understood, does the device use some type of artificial intelligence to change the ratios as you go along based on the result?
Actually, the devices that I mentioned, they are only using the input that the user or the provider is putting in. So basically, you are putting your targets and carb ratios, and everything is there. So it doesn't just gives you any feedback in terms of that. But there are some apps that can be connected as a part of a CGM. And for example, the Medtronic Guardian system has a system which is that using then artificial intelligence by the IBM Watson technology, and that one is using that. It gives you feedback, hey, you are eating this, so when you are getting low or when you get that much amount of insulin, then you can get high, or when you exercise you are getting low, or maybe next time you eat a fish sandwich, maybe you need more insulin. So it learns from your habits by the time and then just gives you some feedback. There are systems like that too, but the smart pens are mostly that user initiated and user controlled.
Okay. So the user initiated, user controlled smart pens really seem to make the ability to dial in your insulin needs more nimble, in essence, than what we used to do. Is that correct? And easier for patients to carry out than having to do all the figuring themselves?
For sure, and they don't need to calculate the carb ratios, how much insulin they need to give. And also for the people that frequently boluses, it's a big advantage because if you are using an injections, multiple daily injections, you may not know when was the last time you took an insulin, and how much insulin you should take and how much insulin you used. And you can get this information from an insulin pump very easily. But if you're not using an insulin pump, or a smart insulin pump is an hybrid closed loop system, and the MDI patients are having problems of staking the insulin, which is another problem. So if these smart pens, you can use this and like you are using a pump, so you can take advantage of that. Also, we use this and for the adolescents or older people that tend to forget or may not remember when was the last time they took their insulin, did they take their insulin or not, and sometimes people are taking twice their insulin. So is insulin, there is a record there, you already took or not. So it can be very helpful for those people too.
Fascinating. You anticipated my next question, which is, what do you see as the benefits of these systems versus just, bolus and then your 2 or 3 time a day fast acting insulin? How does these systems compare? How are these beneficial?
So they are definitely beneficial in terms of that they increase the time in range by the time, and then anything conjunction with using the CGM. You can use a standalone CGM, and you can use AID systems, or you can use with the smart insulin pens. And with the CGM use, CGM is the main game changer here. And then it increases the time in range, it decreases the symptomatic hypoglycemia events, and it also decreases the time below 70, which is the time below target range, so decreases the hypoglycemia. And also, it has been proven in many studies their benefits are for multiple daily injection patients or the pump patients. In the Diamond study, for example, in type 1 diabetes, showed that really benefits of the CGM and decrease in hemoglobin A1C. For older people over 60 years old, is the Wisdom study showed the benefits of the CGM and decrease in hypoglycemia. And HypoD study showed the people as vulnerable to hypoglycemia, and how to use the CGM on the hypoglycemia awareness people with type 1 diabetes, and it also decreased the hypoglycemia events. So they are very helpful systems. Also, they can increase the quality of life, confidence of the patients, and exercise tolerance. And also, people can get the feedback from the food. So maybe there are certain foods that are increases their blood sugar too much, or they may need more insulin, or sometimes in conjunction with the exercise they may need less insulin for certain types of exercise. So users can get so many input and feedback when they are looking at their data, and then they can get a sense of what they need to do. And also, we even used this CGM systems in sometimes with Siri, and some of them as a feature and as an app in blind patients. So we had some blind patients, we did a study, and then they can actually use the voice commands and, hey Siri, what's my blood sugar? And they can also and hear that, and also the direction, if there's a number, and also going up or down. So they can use the CGM very easily. In a 1-year study that we did, the patients got increased their time in range and decrease their symptomatic hypoglycemia events, also duration of the hypoglycemia on CGM.
That is just amazing. We live in an incredible time where we have all these devices that are able to open up avenues to make it easier to control our diabetes. I love the fact that you talked about quality of life, and even open up the technology for people with different disabilities that would otherwise not have this technology available to them. That really is fantastic. We only have a couple of minutes remaining. We've got all these devices now out there. How do you go about choosing the right device for the right patient?
I think that's the most important part. So there is no one fit for all. So, and you have to really individualize diabetes technology therapies for the patients with type 1 or type 2 diabetes. I think there are certain things that when offering the patients that diabetes technologies, especially the CGMs, and then to increase their time in range, to decrease their hemoglobin A1C, we need to explain how these devices are working, first of all. And we need to ask what's the most important thing for this patient to choose in terms of the alarms, in terms of the cost, motivation, expectations, connecting, ability to connect to a smart pump or a smart pen, or are they very active in sports, or are they any taping allergies. So we have to consider so many things. If somebody is considering a no finger stick, which means that factory calibrated CGMs, and then we have to choose the CGMs that are factory calibrated. And so if somebody says, I just want to use a certain pump, that we can only use a certain, CGM companies that will be connecting to these certain pumps, because otherwise we cannot use this AI, this system. And if somebody says that, oh, I have this taping allergies all the time, we can use a silicone based taping offering, some of the companies can do that. And then there are some implemented, implanted CGMs too, so that if the patient wants to give a break sometimes, if somebody is complaining of falling off all the time, and they can always use an underneath of the skin, CGM placement, they can use that too. And I think that we can just help in terms of their needs and in terms of their lifestyle. And there are different things that we can discuss: cost, insurance, and other things. And I think we can just find a way to get everybody, and then something that fits for their life.
It's fantastic. Over the last 5 years, we've moved with regard to choosing medicines to individualization of care, choosing medicines not just in order, but matching the patient characteristic with the results of the medicine. And it seems like we're moving in the same direction now with diabetes technology. Is that right?
Correct, definitely. And every year, and there are the CGMs are improving. There are more insulin pumps are coming up on the way, and there are more AID systems are coming. So I think the future of the diabetes technologies is very bright. And then they are getting smaller also. I think that's the most important thing. CGMs and pumps are getting smaller, and they are getting smarter. And we are learning from the small mistakes and the life achievements of the CGMs, and then also we can just customize them for the people. We are also learning a lot of different metrics to measure and compare on CGM too. I think you also discussed this in your first episode. And then these are very important things to decrease the diabetes related long term complications.
That is fantastic. Well, we're going to close our podcast in a minute or so. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
So I would suggest diabetes technologies to all people are using, especially intensive insulin therapy in type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And I think that all the therapies and all these CGMs, smart insulin pens, or smart pumps should be individualized and depends on the patient's needs and expectations and the comfort level. And I think everybody can find something that can help and increase their time in range and decrease hemoglobin A1C, increase their quality of life, so they can just find more time with their loved ones.
That is fantastic. Dr. Akhter, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your expertise with all of us.
Thank you very much for having me.
This is the third episode of Time in Range, and this episode has been sponsored by an independent educational grant from Abbott. For more information on Time in Range, please go to professional.diabetes.org/time in range. Lots of information there. The ADA's 2022 Standards of Care, information on time and range, and lots of other resources. For the American Diabetes Association, I'm Dr. Neil Skolnick. Till next time, stay safe and keep learning.